Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Friday, November 21st stream for NBA Sharp Betting Breakdown here on The Advantage. I am your host, Michael Fiddle. We have the fourth NBA Cup night of the season where we have 8 games, and honestly, this is my favorite card of the night. When these odds came out, and this is something that we've been talking about on this show, NBA Cup odds are being priced in advance and being left up. Yesterday, those odds being left up were available for the taking, for hopefully the raking, and hopefully a dominant night, because I don't know if I've ever gone into a card with this high of exposure throughout the slate. So let's jump right into it. We have 8 games to break down. Let's share the FanDuel odds screen. Let's bring in professional poker player Drew Johnson. Give me 1 second as I figure out how to share the screen. I'll add my man Drew to the stage. Drew, how you doing as I start to share the FanDuel odds screen on the board?
I'm doing pretty good. Little beat up this week. I've been a little under the weather the entire time, so I actually didn't watch any games last night. I had bets in, but I just didn't watch anything. Went to bed early.
All right, wait, that might change. That might change the intro. I've cried over spilled milk too much this week because there's already 3 bets that I've complained to you about losing in the final 10 seconds of games, Drew. This will depend if you had these tickets too. Were you on Pistons money line or were you on the under for that game yesterday in any regard?
I was on Pistons money line and Lakers minus 4.5. That was all I had for last night.
All right. Hold on. Pulling it up. Pulling it up. We are going to show, to start this off, the highlight of Malik Beasley missing, Drew, a game-winning layup for the Pistons. Hold up. Let's put the sound on. Let's share the screen. We know this is yesterday, Drew. I literally said it on the stream. I go,
sorry, there we go.
I go, Malik Beasley's got a way of screwing me over when I bet on totals. I meant when he usually makes shots and usually starts going nuclear from 3. Yesterday, he ruins me on a total by missing a shot, but also look what happened. Look at what happened. So 109. We are on Pistons money line, right?
Yep.
Line closes at 2.5. That sharp that me and you reference who bets into late lines, I know is holding at 2.5. And so this missing was probably a good thing for him, or he had a 2. But watch what happens. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Beasley, shot clock down to 4. Beasley, missed it. Malik Beasley.
Oh my goodness.
Malik Beasley missed it from 1.5 feet is what the Charlotte Hornets, who we reference here often, that guy screaming his lungs out every single game. This one was a moment for, if you're a Hornets sidelines reporter, to actually get really, really excited about, because 109, Drew, I had the under 221.5. So making that shot makes the game land 220 and makes Malik Beasley a game-winning bucket Pistons money line winner. You were on Pistons money line. We were able to give out the under 221.5 on the show yesterday. Malik, brother, I literally said it yesterday. You screwed me on totals. You screwed me on another total. That was absolutely brutal. There was also a Franz game winner. Let's pull that up. I didn't think that this was like as much of a dagger, because I think you had a 4.5, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Lakers were up 4 with 27 seconds left.
So yeah.
All they really needed was one stop then, and they would have forced the foul. And you did have closing line value that closed at 5 or 5.5. And so you crossed through a key number. It was a back and forth all game. Here's how that game actually ended. God damn it. technology on today's stream being real Friday on us.
Yeah.
All right.
A 2 to tie, a 3 to win, and you can bet that Franz Wagner will take the shot with 5, with 4 for the lead.
Wow.
Lead 119 to 118.
I love his reaction too. Just as like, okay, we need to stop. Like, no celebration, nothing. That's a winner right there.
The $200 million max contract, this player. Look what
Starting
Franz
to
does.
look like
and
it,
you
though.
can bet that Franz Wagner will take the shot with 5, with 4 for the lead. He's got it, and they've got the lead.
Yeah, you're right, Drew. That goes in with 2.5 left on the clock, and is immediately he's not celebrating. He's like, one more stop. They then go up 1 point. So that becomes a situation that becomes very important to get a final stop. Let's share the FanDuel odds screen. Drew, there's actually one more thing that I want to show you, but I'm going to save it towards the end because it's not a reflection on last night, but it is something that happened and that is perfect to our crossover that I think you are absolutely going to love. All right, let's start this breakdown of NBA Cup Friday, the fourth night of NBA Cup games where we have 8 games on the slate. We got Dylante saying favorite card of the season. You say your favorite card of the season. We got Taylor here saying been loving the pod. Thanks for all the info, Fiddle and Drew. Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate you being here, and that's why we will continue to roll on every day, despite some terrible, terrible beats like that. Okay, the Brooklyn Nets take on the Philadelphia 76ers tonight. No Paul George. We know he is out for the next 2 games at least with that hyperextension of that same left knee. Joel Embiid back in the lineup. Tyrese Maxey back in the lineup. The Sixers were nearly full. I don't even know if you call minutes restriction Tyrese Maxey back to a full lineup in game 1. It lasted one half in which the Sixers were even down 10 in that half against Memphis before Paul George would get hurt, I think at the start of the second half. So Philadelphia, worst record in the East, worst record in the NBA. It's gotten really bad, Drew. I'm looking for my buy point on the 76ers. I am ready to start backing them in some spots. I don't know if this is the spot, but yesterday on the show, I was missing you, but I did say there's already something that I bet 2 units on for tomorrow's games. Now, we cover each games on day of. Value of the WHOP and getting these picks early is that you get some amazing numbers. Now, this is one that I actually wanted to say on the show because it was just one, hey, I'll throw this one out there for tomorrow while I'm here solo when it's a 4-game slate. The show ended, and then immediately people started writing in the YouTube, wait, hey, you forgot to put what you just bet 2 units on for a total that you said you were going to bet. So I put it in the comments after the show and put Brooklyn Nets at Philadelphia 76ers under 218 and a half. 218 and a half, in which I got some replies in the comments. Thank you, sir. You're a good man. That line was still available. Now we are seeing it down to 215, Drew. I want to check because a few seconds ago, 217 was still available at Bet Rivers. Drew, when I said 217 was available at Rivers, that shit is gone, and it is now 215.
Yeah, literally in the last 15 minutes since the show started, this has moved another point, or at least a half point at FanDuel, but most of the other trailing websites have moved it a full point from 16 and a half, 16.
Circa 216, FanDuel 215, DraftKings 215.5, MGM 15.5, 365 15.5. And now you are seeing that plummet also happen at Bet Rivers, which was a tick slower today. ESPN bet down to 215.5 as well. So across the board, at least 3 points of CLV. Probably going to be a spot that I play back. A question that I was asked yesterday on the stream, Drew, was do you ever bet more than 0.75 units into totals, and I was talking about the value of certain CLV spots and only playing 3/4 of a unit when you think you're going to beat the 1 because it's less important, and I played 1.25 units when I was going to beat the 6 in the Rockets game. So this was, I responded and I said, yes, there are spots where I play more than a unit or more than 1 unit when I bet into totals. And this was one of them because I sniffed it out of the air, Drew. This was way too high. And I wanted to explain to you why this was way too high and why when we go through this card, you're going to realize this is my favorite fucking card with some of the best numbers on the board. Do you remember how often we've said and how often we've noted that these NBA Cup games are priced in advance and you should be aware of what these Cup games are priced at?
Yeah.
Do you remember how often we've said use those future price NBA Cup games and compare them to the current odds of certain games and use them to pick out any, thing that's an outlier or something that might be an overreaction to what it probably should be priced at? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, DraftKings, we should call them Smashed Kings tonight, left these odds up the entire time. They left these odds up through Thursday's games, through Wednesday's games, without any changes. So I saw Paul George go out, and there was no change in that line after Wednesday until I did the Thursday show. So these lines have been available for so long. They were not being changed in reaction to what was happening in real time. People were too worried about betting NFL Thursday, trying to bet NBA Thursday. Well, NBA Friday was available at the time, and they became absolute smash spots because as other books started to come back online, Caesars was the first book to come back online after DraftKings had kept them up. So now I have some sort of market indication about where these lines maybe should go. I also have one book starting to put updated numbers and one book that I know is outdated because I know I've been watching them. I know they've been up and I know they're the same. So really it could have been any book. It could have been MGM. It could have been FanDuel. It could have been Bet Rivers. It could have been ESPN Bet. But the second book that was going to come online that had closed its numbers and was reopening them was going to be more correct than the lines that have been stale and left up the whole time. So that's like the real strategy point, is to note, how do you know which book is likely incorrect with the market direction, and how do you play into some of these directional spots if only 2 books are online and you don't really have a consensus line? You don't really have movement to note market direction. Drew, you know when these odds were posted and what's happened between when they were up and when you start to bet into them. And that was the information and the indicator to know. DraftKings was mightily incorrect yesterday. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. This is kind of a theme from, like, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to lose the edge, but DraftKings is kind of slow with the movement when other stuff comes online. Like if I was running a book and I wanted to be first online with any numbers so that we got all the early action, right? Taking our vig there, right? I would probably ensure that I was on the ball with when the second and the third book releases their line so that I knew exactly what to do and accomplish that when it happens. Now, I realize you've got to have somebody or a robot watching the screen at all times, but like, how is this not done yet?
I'm basically watching the screen the whole time. I could have, listen, if DraftKings reached out to me, they'd have to pay me a good sum for me not to bet against them and give them this information, which I probably would not do. They absolutely have the ability to hire somebody, is what I'm getting at, to do that.
Yeah, like
or program an AI algorithm. If I'm aware of doing it from my home, they should be fucking aware with some of their traders as action comes in, because it took all of 10 minutes, 15 minutes for them to start moving the lines once they realized they were getting pounded in certain spots because certain numbers were wildly, wildly off. So let's continue to go through the card. The one question I would have for you, Drew, is obviously Nets Sixers at 215.5 is certainly not playable from a 2-unit perspective.
No,
This
certainly
was
not.
a line that I loved. Is it skip, or can you put some lunch money, half a unit on it?
I'm worried about the quality of the 76ers defense. I think the Brooklyn Nets, if they can get out and transition run, I think the Brooklyn Nets match up well against this team athletically. And I could see them putting up 110, 115 themselves. I think the question will be, what can the 76ers score? By the way, I'm also high on the Brooklyn Nets in this game, to be honest with you. I think this spread is too much.
So I'm actually glad you brought up the spread. Do you want any to further that, or you just think the spread's too much still at 6? It was 7.5.
I think this,
when I played the 218.5, this was 7.5 and plus 260 on the money line for the Nets. So we're seeing 1.5 of Paul George news, and there's probably should be more because it's also 76ers stink on ice news, but go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing is, like, we've seen what Joel Embiid is offering us right now, and it's certainly not full Joel Embiid. It's not MVP Joel Embiid, right? Are we at 2/3 of that even? So considering the considering the Nets talent, like, that we didn't sort of think that they had, but they absolutely do. Considering this is a cup game, and if there's games that the Nets want to get up for this season, it's going to be these, right? At least this early in the season. I'm also just really worried about the 76ers for the next week and a half until that Paul George sort of, hopefully that hyperextended knee is kind of a quick one, right? I'm not out on them. We see Dylante in the chat here. The people I saw talking about blowing up the Sixers need to be never listened to again, and I swear I've seen it. I kind of agree with this. I think they have at least a 2-year window still, especially with Maxey as young as he is. Like, they kind of have their 2 aging vets, but if those vets get healthy, like, they're a good team. So I think this is entirely health related. I think every problem that everybody's looking at is a little bit overblown right now, and the record being 2-12 or whatever it is, the worst record in the league, is overblown in itself, and I think that's causing overreaction.
Yeah, this is why I stayed away from this game. The only reaction I have from that, Drew, is I just want to comment and say one of the most questions that I get asked is this a positive value middle? Hey, I'm noticing these 2 lines, or hey, I grabbed Nets plus 7.5 and now it's at 6. Do I play back 6? Is that actually a positive value middle? Well, look at this. The money line was plus 260, and now the money line on the Philadelphia 76ers side is now minus 250 after the line movement. The fact that you can outright arbitrage what the money line price was to what the money line price is now means that what you can do in the spreads is also going to be a positive value middle. That's just a way to check. Also, in totals, if you have 3 points of a total difference, it's positive value. Like, just blindly. Don't reach out to me and say, hey, I see 224.5 and 227.5 online at the same time. Do you think those are positive? Yes. Don't ask me. Just do it. Go do it. And then instead of asking me, politely still tell me that that's available, so I could tail you in some of those spots. I could tail your middle, and if it hits, I can celebrate and call it a fiddles middle, but it's really a Dylante middle, or a Space Cram middle, or a Ian Torrio middle, or a Taylor DeHart middle. Whatever it is, let's hit it together. That's really all that matters. All right, let's talk about.
Just put in an aside real quick there. If you give us a bet, we will, and the bet wins, we will shout you out like 100% of the time.
Could not care less about credit in this space. There is way too many people who
Money's what
care
matters.
way too much about credit in terms of a winning bet, a strategy, or whatever. If I learn something from somebody, I will absolutely shout it out. Hence me doing a whole newsletter series highlighting some of the best people in the NFL space. And so if you're also an NFL bettor, maybe you only listen to the podcast, but you don't follow the newsletter. There's been 10 articles released on my newsletter about how to bet player props through the lens of this expert, how to quantify a Super Bowl hangover through the lens of this expert, how to quantify the value of every quarterback relative to their backup through the lens of this expert. So if you are learning something from somebody using their strategies, give them a shout out. Give them a shout out. All right.
Unless they don't want you to share their advantage. I do have friends who are like that as well.
That
So,
that
like,
also
you're
that
getting-
also exists for sure.
Yeah,
If they tell
so
you their
just-
edge, don't go on your podcast and say it.
Yeah. You don't want to give away edges necessarily, but you do want to give smart people and sharp bettors their due.
Properly said, Drew. Let's talk about the Boston Celtics at the Washington Wizards. The Boston Celtics are now 1-1 in NBA Cup play with a 1-point loss to the Atlanta Hawks, and not a 5-point win. Thank you, Ty Jerome. Fuck you, Ty Jerome. A 3-point win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. One of the ones where we did not cover a 4-point spread because the ball going through the hoop meaninglessly as the clock struck 0.0. Now the Celtics are in Washington to take on the Wizards. I think this is going to be one where injury report matters a lot, right? So it's like anytime the Celtics are this long of favorites, you got to check, like, is Jaylen Brown playing? Is Horford going to be active? What's the spot here? Everybody, it seems, will play on the Boston side, Drew. Koulibaly is also listed as will play, and Marvin Bagley questionable, although I don't know if you
I don't
really
think that
truly
matters.
want Marvin Bagley even
He might be
in
minus
this
1 point.
matchup. Yeah, okay. So we're seeing 16, we're seeing 237s. This opened at FanDuel. I know 235.5. I actually played the under 236.5, so slight movement against me here. Don't love to see that. 15.5s were on the board for the Celtics. I thought it was an under spot. Clearly, I am a bit wrong. Any thoughts on any direction in this game, Drew?
I do think this is an under spot. I think that line is too high considering the Boston Celtics defense and how hard it's going to be for the Wizards to score on them. I wouldn't touch this spread. I don't want to lay that number of points with any team on, like, as a road favorite. Like, that's ridiculous. We're saying the Celtics are worth are 19, 20-point favorites right now over the Wizards. Is that true? It might be, right?
Wait. This is so perfect, Drew. So we're seeing a line that bakes in NBA Cup incentive to win by a big margin.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably artificially bumped on the Celtics side, because do you even think
they did lose their first game too, but they only lost it by 2.
They lost it by 117,
right, yeah.
116.
That's
and
right.
then they won by 3. So like I said, they have a plus 2-point differential.
Yeah.
And they're 1-1.
If they want that wild card spot, they got to blow these guys out. Maybe that is something to play into then.
Do you think they want it?
Do they really care? Like, this is where you get into conjecture, right? Like, we're just sort of putting thoughts in a team's head, and then, like, this seems like.
So I've argued against other people saying that they're looking for lines that are easy on the Boston side because they know Boston wants it. And so I've argued against them going, why do we know Boston wants it? They're just coming off of an NBA championship. They're just coming off of sending multiple players to Team USA and having a long summer. They went to Abu Dhabi in preseason, advancing through the group stage potentially gives you an 83rd game on your regular season, Drew. Do this team actually fucking want this?
I don't know. I don't know if it matters to them. So, like, I don't think you can actually play that angle in either direction.
Thank you. I agree. I'm not playing it as a sense that they don't want it. I was on the Celtics last game. but I just don't think it's a reason. Like, there's a term called RBH, and it's not resting bitch face, although it sounds kind of similar. It's results based hindsight, and it's using the results and then finding a way to explain it, and then going into your next thing and saying, oh, because of that result and being able to explain it this way, we can attack it from this other angle. We don't know if we can explain what happened with, Celtics really care about NBA Cup. So this is a spot where they need the point differential. So instead of winning by 16, they're going to try and win by 25 or 30. They did try and do that last season. They were the team that hack-a-shacked Andre Drummond to go up 30 and get to the wild card spot and secure the wild card from their group. They were not their group winners. They were a wild card spot, and they ended up making it with point differential last year. That was still prior to proving themselves in the playoffs. That was prior to an international summer. That was prior to an international preseason. So I just don't know if we could say they did it last year, they're going to want to do it again this year. Like, I don't know.
Here's the other angle on that. The Celtics are all fairly well paid, right? Like the teams
more than fairly well paid.
What? So like the teams that are going to want this the most are teams like the Brooklyn Nets, the Detroit Pistons, the guys who are on those rookie contracts, the guys who are not getting paid as they should be just yet. They want that extra money. They want that trip to Vegas. They know that they're not winning a championship this year, but they could win the NBA Cup. Whereas Boston knows that the goal is back-to-back.
Yep. Staying hungry throughout, which I think facing an undefeated Cleveland Cavaliers team in their conference and wanting to hand the Cavs the first loss of the season and prove themselves to still be the cream of the crop in the East, I think that was a bigger motivator than, oh, this is an NBA Cup game. Personally. Yeah. But I will still not use it in either direction.
Yeah. I do want to pull this up before we leave this game. Taylor's asking Washington team total under. So I looked at that on FanDuel. Under 110.5 is juiced to minus 114. That would be 26 points under the total, the current total. So that means that if the total is sharp, you think the Boston Celtics are winning by 26. I would stay away from this one just on a purely numbers perspective.
Wait, what's the team total for the Wizards?
The Wizards team total is currently priced under 110.5 minus 114. That is 27 points off of the current overall total, while the line is only minus 16. So
So if it was 110 to 127, it would be a 17-point game that lands at 237.
Oh, okay. So it is priced correctly. I'm incorrect.
Yeah. But do you like Washington team total under? Probably not still.
No, I don't.
It's probably going to be a fast-paced game. Don't bet this game. Don't watch this game. Maybe a small fractional play on the under, but I wouldn't. There's also one I wouldn't be surprised if it's 250 135 to 125, and I'm looking like a schmuck who bet an under in the 230s when it ends 260. All right, let's talk Pacers at the Milwaukee Bucks. I think a lot of casuals are going to start to remember that the Pacers ran out the Bucks last year, like ran them out the building, held that matchup. I think they were in the same NBA Cup, and it was part of that whole stuff too. That was a very important matchup. Now Milwaukee is on a little bit of an uptick. Milwaukee won 3 of their last 4, including one loss where the referees kind of screwed the pooch. LaMelo Ball slipped. He was not fouled on his way to the floor. He slipped, and he was given 2 free throws. So that was the decider. There was an interview with Doc Rivers yesterday. It says, Doc, you've won 3 of the last 4. And he goes, no, we've won 4 of the last 4. Thank you. And the whole reporters started laughing in the press conference room. And he goes, I'm not going to, let me try and do it in Doc voice. I'm not going to even do it. I'm not going to get fined twice is what he says. I would
Nice.
need 3 cigarettes and to have just woken up 5 minutes ago to properly sound like the great Doc Rivers, whose voice is amazing. Love Doc on calls, love Doc on podcasts, love Doc in interviews. So I just can't mimic the voice. Gibby can mimic the voice. For anyone who's been around the Advantage long enough to know who Gibby is when I shout him out on the pod, one of the best Doc Rivers impression I can remember. All right. Dilante says it's funny that Milwaukee is winning because Brook Lopez is cooking. I know Dilante is a Nets fan, so he must like to see Brook Lopez cooking right now. Halliburton is not cooking. Damian Lillard is back. Giannis is playing like at an MVP level.
Possessed.
This, Drew, was, look how beautiful this was. This was Milwaukee Bucks -4 at the same time that Pacers was +5.5. So what I did was 3 units on the Bucks -4, 2 units back on the Pacers +5.5. Tilted 1 unit in the direction of the Milwaukee Bucks. That is the direction in which more closing line value has been obtained. Played back through a relative key number, having the 4 as a push, the 5, the lovely 5 as a middle. So you get 2 amazing spread numbers. Spread numbers are like twice as valuable as totals. So when I say you need 3 points in totals, think about having 1.5 if you have -110s on both sides for spreads to have a positive value middle. We are now seeing this, Drew, at Bucks -5. I have a potential 5 unit play if this lands on the 5. Please, 5. Let this be a push game. Let this be a push game. Would you still play into either direction? We are seeing. Go ahead.
I literally just played Bucks -5 for half a unit.
Okay.
We're seeing -5.5s at sharp books priced equally.
Everywhere else, dude.
So there's -5.5s most other places, but they're juiced towards the +5.5. So you get -105 on the 5.5 downwards. But sharp books have it priced evenly at that number. So I just picked this 5 up with FanDuel.
Everything Drew just said is correct. And even Drew's decision to play -5 at -110 and forego the -5.5 at reduced juice -5, -105. Drew chose the right line. Playing -5 at -110 would be the correct bet to make. Obviously, you're not going to play that for 3 units without any playback. I probably wouldn't recommend a full unit now that you've moved 1 whole point onto a key number. So Drew's saying that's a half unit, 3/4 of a unit play. Whoa. Hold on. Boom. All right. Back in action. All right. So I agree with you, Drew, that -5 on the Buck side probably worth a half unit play. Golden State Warriors visit the New Orleans Pelicans, Drew. You won't even believe what line I have for this game. What do you think the open was?
Golden State -9.
Golden State -8. What? Yeah. This is why this is my favorite.
I wish I had been awake
on
last
the
night.
board. It's my favorite slate. I have a Golden State -8.
God.
Drew, this one was okay. Wait, hold on. I want to explain 2 things. One, if I explained that there was positive value middle in judging the money lines versus judging the spreads, then how come I didn't also place a money line arbitrage on Milwaukee Bucks -4 when Pacers were at +5.5? If money lines would have been available, that would have been available to me. When Caesars posted this, it was Bucks -4, which had a money line, but Caesars did not post a money line available with this on the +5.5. So I had to only do it from a spread perspective. Normally, I would just do both, like play both, some money line and just take the arb, and then also open up some middle. Like just split your exposure because both are, I'd say, playing the middle probably long time, slightly more profitable. But then arbitraging is guaranteed money every time and impossible to just leave those situations available when you have them at books like DraftKings and Caesars. So going to Golden State, the reason why I reflected back on that 1.5 point differential at money lines being available, the Golden State -8 was -115, while the 9.5 was -110. So opening up a middle with -115 and -110 changed the value of opening that middle with 1.5 spread points in real time. So I just said, okay, DraftKings is the incorrect book here. Why? Because I know this is the same line that's been up for 2 days. I know that Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy were late scratches before the last Pelicans game. So they're missing not only literally everyone in their lineup, they were literally missing in the 2 remaining players you could count on. So now we look at the injury report for this game. Trey Murphy actually will play. Ingram's been listed as questionable, so I actually think Ingram is going to play, but we still have the McCollum, Herb Jones, DeJounte, Zion, all of those people, Alvarado. We still have at 6 injuries on the Pelican side that are just brutal to deal with. So this might come back to 9.5 when Ingram's activated, or 10. But the 8 was fucking incorrect. And so I just played a 1.5 on it immediately at the -115. Drew, now we're seeing -10.5 at a total of 223. The opening on the total was 222.5. Any opinions in either direction for current numbers for this game?
I know I don't like playing road favorites. Or sorry, yeah. Road favorites.
Road favorites.
Yeah, lengthy road favorites. This might be one I take still, again, for like a half unit. What I might end up doing with this one is 2/3 of a unit on the money line and 1/3 of a unit on the spread. I feel like that's a good split. You probably win a half unit that way total, right?
Yeah, that's probably correct, Drew. That's probably the right way to do it. You'd probably take them a little bit less than half a unit. The other direction that I would look is possibly Warriors team total over. 116.5 at -115 is juicy.
Wait, what? Oh my goodness. Yep, grabbing that immediately.
Team total over, right? Because if we're seeing slight movement towards the over, you really have to, it's tough to imagine it's coming from the Pelican side. We also remember this this game, Drew. They played twice in Golden State when Curry was inactive and Zion was active. They had that superstar switch in who was actually available. Golden State won both.
Yeah.
How do I remember that so well? You guys know why I remember that so well. I was obviously on the Pelicans in fucking both of those spots.
Yeah, that's right.
Close the head, lost the bet every time. Yeah, so I think team total over possibly for Warriors. Shop around and find best number. See if you could find a -110. Drew's going to be on that, or just play pizza money on a 10.5 or a -490. I will find quickly. Best available odds on the Warriors are -10.5 is -107 right now at Bet Rivers. And the money line is -490 at FanDuel is the best available odds. So fair value there. Let's talk.
I just grabbed the over on that one. I would imagine.
That's why I'm moving slow for you. I'm moving slow for you right now so that you could place your bet.
Hey, it's Friday. We're chilling.
No. Just get that action in. Not because you're slow on your feet, so you can get that action in before we start talking Bulls Hawks, and I blow your mind with another middle that was available. Bulls.
I think I remember this.
Bulls plus 2.5, while Hawks were also plus 1.5.
That's a beauty of a middle too.
3 full points. 3 full points. We know that we say, oh, the one is the 13th most common outcome, so you don't want to play too hard into that. Yes, but that's also in reference to one on the favorite side. Like if you're playing through the one, like you need a specific side of that to hit. When you have on your side, you will absorb the whole shebang. When you also have a 2 on one of the sides, that's unbelievable. Now that you have 3 numbers in the middle in a live NBA spread, that is one of the biggest middle spots in value that you will see the whole season. I don't care that it's through the 1s and the 2s. 3 full points of middle value on an NBA spread is like 6 points live in a total discrepancy.
That's agree.
Crazy. That's like seeing the NFL a -2.5 and a +3.5 available at the same fucking time. You will never see it. So this was probably a once in a blue moon instance, Drew. 4 units each direction. I will risk 0.4 units to win 8 on this bad boy.
I love this play. I would probably have gone even harder on that, to be honest with you, considering this is a cup game and both these teams like this, because Atlanta's on the road. I think that this could end up being a very close game. Atlanta's going to want to win this one for sure.
Atlanta was the team that beat Boston for reference.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
So they have a shot at getting in here, right? And that would be a really big boon for that team going forward if they could make the NBA Cup, if they could even get into the finals there. They would be really excited, and that would give them a lot of confidence going forward.
I completely agree. And then do you have any direction on opinion on current numbers with it settling at Hawks -1.5? It was Bulls +2.5, Hawks +1.5. So we're seeing it settle at Hawks -1.5 on the road. Let's pull up the injury report for that one because we know Atlanta has been dealing with some stuff. So probable Torrey Craig and Kobe White on the Chicago side, and Pat Williams and Lonzo still out. Ian, can you check on it? Can't be right for Atlanta. Like Bogdanovich is not coming back immediately. So I know there's been some lengthy long terms. Do you mind just quickly looking into that and letting us know if any of those long-term injury updates have been updated for the Atlanta Hawks? I do think DeAndre Hunter is back and active, but like Vit Krejci, who I think is a pretty underrated backup point guard, is pretty fucking good. And who is the other one that I just mentioned? Bog have been out for a while, so I don't know if they've returned or sometimes those injury reports. Be very careful with this NBA bettors. Sometimes those injury reports don't have the long-term ones. So like maybe Scotty Barnes wasn't listed on a lot of the previous Toronto ones because you knew he was just out going to be reevaluated in 2 or 3 weeks, like Kevin Durant or Bradley Beal right now, or some of those situations. Like Chet Holmgren might not be on OKC's injury report right now, but the man's injured and out for the next 8 to 10 weeks. So be very careful on those. Bogdan, Hunter, Krejci, all active.
Yeah.
Welcome
I think
back.
Think I'm taking the Hawks right now, my friend.
Okay, 246 is the total, Drew. That is the highest total we have seen all season.
That's by like 6 points.
Yep. And now I have 2 questions for you. The correct is 4.5 on that. The highest total previously 241.5, and it was between
Atlanta and somebody.
Atlanta and Chicago.
Oh wow! Look at that.
And that game went over or under, Drew. For it to be priced at 246 right now,
right?
It clearly went over. Yeah. So this is some
of
like
the 250 or something like that. 252.
Yeah, it was crazy in that game.
Actually, I have that open right now. Hang on.
Actually, no, that one landed 238, and we hit the middle on that. 236.5 and under 241.5.
Okay.
That game landed 238.
What's the one I'm thinking of where the Bulls just played and it went crazy? Oh no, the high total.
Knicks?
Yeah, that one. But I was also thinking about the Raptors against the Pacers the other night, where that total was like 36.5, 37, and I had an under, and I was like, oh yeah, and then it went 250 or something silly.
It's so crazy when teams score over 240 in a combined total.
Yeah.
240 divided by 48 minutes is 5 points scored every minute. It is a point every 12 seconds of court action.
Yeah, that's literally
It's like you're
if there
not
were
missing. It's like,
yeah, you're
did you even miss
missing
a
a
shot
shot.
all game?
Yeah. If you took the full shot clock to get your shot off, it's like not missing ever.
Right. Exactly. Of course, there's threes, there's free throws, there's technicals, there's other things that add to that, but you normally project about 4.5 or slightly less for
Yeah.
a game. And so 5 every minute, and to sustain that over the course of 48
Yeah.
is actually wild.
We're kind of back pre All-Star break last year, right? Like, you remember those totals we were seeing towards the end of the season last year? We were seeing like Wolves totals go under 200, Magic totals go under 200, like
Priced at
all
like
of that good-
204 and a half, 208.
and then take under action, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But now
Yeah,
we're
that was
right
amazing.
back into these 240s. Like, if we're seeing a 246, that means we're not far away from like a 250 at some
Drew,
point this season.
highest total in the game. I'm not asking you for a bet on this. I'm asking you for a little just personal opinion between me and you. Does it go over or under the highest number on the board in the history of the NBA 2024-25?
I would say it probably goes over more often. Like, the line can't get high enough.
That's correct on principle for gambling. For basketball purposes, the highest totals usually go over. The lowest totals usually go under. Like, if you are going to bet into one of those sides, you kind of like having the under on the one that's really low, like 207 for Magic Clippers the other night, closes at 204 and a half, still goes under.
Yeah, it was like 190 something, right?
Yeah, so that like those are, it's true for not only game markets, it's also true for win total markets, Drew. So like Celtics were 56 and a half this season. OKC was like 56 and a half. I think both teams are still projected to get like 58 plus right now. So those are really, really worthwhile. I wouldn't say it's a trend. I would just say it's more of a betting principle for NBA stuff. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets going against the Portland Trailblazers in this spot. We have been backing the Rockets left and right, Drew, but this spread has come down from 14 and a half to 12 and a half. I'm not sure if Ayton is going to be active in this game. Let me pull up the injury report for that one. Doubtful Ayton, questionable Scoot Simon, Matisse Thybulle, the second most overrated player in the league behind Tyrese Halliburton, is out for this game. Don't ask me why. I have personal beef.
He's been out
with
the whole
Matisse.
season, isn't he? Yeah.
Sure. I have personal beef with Matisse. All right.
Okay.
Not actually personal. I just think he's incredibly overrated for his defensive stuff because he's so bad offensively that he's vastly a net negative on the court, and everyone thinks he's a 3-and-D player who's like the best defender in the league. He's costly when he's out there. All right. Portland Trailblazers at Houston Rockets minus 12 and a half, a total of 224. We know the spread has gone from 14 and a half down to 12 and a half. That's not a direction in which I am going to fade and play into Portland Trailblazers team. We've been a group that's liked the Trailblazers, but we love the Rockets. Probably not a spread that I want to bet into. Drew, the total was as low as 217 and a half for this game.
My goodness.
Yesterday at FanDuel. That's actually crazy. Let's see what it was at DraftKings. 217 and a half, 217 yesterday at 3:09 p.m. Now all the way up to 224. Obviously over movement, but at this point it's under or nothing because you can't play into that much steam. So I would recommend probably skipping this one altogether.
Yeah, I think this is a skip as well. The only thing I would play is Rockets money line if Portland takes on more steam. Like, if that number comes down to like a minus 600, you could throw a unit on the Rockets money line because they're going to win the game.
I agree. I think if we see a spread of like 10.5 at some point, Rockets money line becomes a pre-game play. I want to reemphasize this. When you're, let's say I have Nets Sixers under 218.5, right? And I talked about loving that position. I think that's a really strong number. If it's midway through the second quarter and the live line is 218.5, I do not love the bet. I actually no longer love my pregame position that's now completely flat in the market. I love 218.5 because I could tell that it was going to be 215 by tip-off. So do not plan on tailing someone's pregame action in live time thinking that you're tailing. That's not tailing, because if the number's 218.5 midway through the second quarter on that Nets 76ers under, or if the Rockets get to a minus 10.5 in the second quarter, that's because they might be only up 2 points in the second quarter. And so if you're betting into, or if the pre-game was minus 12.5, and if you look at even the first quarter odds, I'll pull that up for this game, and you say, okay, the Houston Rockets are also minus 4.5 or juiced minus 4 against the spread. They're underperforming right now. They're not only underperforming, they now have 3 quarters to get to that mark and recoup more of the line value than they did pregame. So they have less time while also being behind the ball to start the game. So please don't look to tail pregame action in live spots.
Yeah, this is a really great point to make. Is there something to be said for totals, though, when it comes to, like, if one trend that I have noticed is if the first half specifically goes crazy in one direction versus the line, playing the other direction has looked very profitable over the course of this season. Like, I'm thinking, for example, there was a Golden State game, right, where it was like
the one against the Wizards was way too low, and then it blew up in the second half.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Like where it was like 55 or 60 to like 42 or something.
I mean, even Lakers Jazz, when we had the under 236.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was 101, and then the second half was 141.
Yeah.
There's a 40-point difference between halves.
Yeah, so if you watch the line, and excuse me, one second. If you're watching the line prior through the first and the second corners, and you look at halftime, and the pregame line was 230, and they've scored 100 points in the first half, and the line is now 215 or 214 or something like that. That's a spot that you can consider throwing a half unit, maybe even 0.75 of a unit, because you expect it to get closer to the pregame sharp total that we ended up with, which was the sharpest line right before tip, right? So you expect most games to land in that range. So I think it is profitable if you see a total that's ballooned upwards with 2 defensive teams on efficient shooting, or been very low with inefficient shooting and higher levels of defense and whatnot in a first half.
I think that's true in times when you could also correlate it to what the sharp side was pregame. This is one where I would bring in a pregame angle. If the Wizards Warriors was pregame very sharp towards the over, and they have a terrible first half, and now you're getting, okay, going into the second half, still in a 15-point discount now from what the pre-game line was, those might be spots worth betting into. Or maybe if you faded the market and played, so like when I played the Lakers under 236, it closed at 234, but the open was 230.5, and I was purposely not backing that, and I was waiting for the resistance point. So maybe when I start so well, I shouldn't be so cocky. I know I was fading resistance point. Maybe that's a reason to start to buy in live. John says, in NBA Cup games, I've noticed that totals trends total tends to go over, specifically in close games, since teams tend to foul more or try to score more because of the importance of point differential. Drew, I'm going to take this one,
Sure.
and I'm going to get classic 3, 2, 1. Fiddle's going to be triggered and start going off. I'm going to try and hold back a little bit. You need data to make this actionable, and actually it's untrue if looking at the data. NBA Cup games went 35 and 32 towards the under in group play last year. And if you look at the way these lines are moving, these lines are plummeting in many spots towards unders. So if you're playing opening lines, you're going to do even better than that 35 and 32, which is essentially break even. If you have only one game that lands in the closing line range, then you are profitable blindly playing unders in NBA Cup spots. This season, unders on opening lines went 5 and 3 on night one, and overs also went 5 and 3 on night one because there was such significant pregame action on the under. There are a lot of casual people. Sorry, John. There are a lot of people who are not actually looking at the data, but are using this results-based hindsight when they might have bet one game in which this happened. And now they're saying this happens everywhere. Or maybe they pull up that one Celtics game where the Celtics specifically knew they needed to win by 30, and there was specifically Andre Drummond on the court, who's historically one of the worst free throw shooters. John says, okay, what about the closing line? If you want to blindly, closing lines were 35 and 32 towards the under last season. So you would have been, although you would have been slightly negative because of VIG loss, only betting closing line unders, you would have gotten whacked in the face if you only bet closing line overs. You would be negative 6.5 units, assuming they're all 1 unit bets on minus 110s. This season, I mean, we're on the we're on the 4th day, man. We can't isolate, oh, it was 5 and 3 on night one. We need hundreds of games of sample size. In my opinion, we haven't even had enough NBA Cup games in the history of the league to start invoking some of these angles. We need multiple seasons of it. We need to start seeing how it differentiates on night 4 when specific point differential ranges are known, as opposed to night 1 when you're just playing off the cuff and you're not needing any certain type of outcome. We cannot start using these things as reasons to attack a line because you think there might be more late game fouling because of a potential score differential, while forgetting the first 46 minutes of that game where we have a new court, which might throw off your vision if you're a shooter. You're going to have more intense closeouts, and you're going to have more intense defensive effort. If the point differential matters so much at the end of the game, then they're going to play for it in the beginning of the game, and they're going to play harder defense. We cannot use this to have a blanket reaction to what the totals are priced. We have evidence and proof that totals have been damn near perfectly priced throughout the results of NBA Cup stuff. To be able to beat the number with what you think is incorrect, and thus far, this angle particularly would have been proven to be incorrect. So I know it's tough love, but my skin starts crawling when people say, oh, they're going to try and leave their starters in towards the ends of games, or like, oh, even the winning team is going to leave their starters in. So you don't even know if winning team starters versus replacement players with effort are going to want to prove themselves versus the starters are going to dribble out the clock slowly and slow the pace down. We don't know the specific difference on what's the value over replacement players for the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds of a game versus the starters if they're out there. Is it half a point? Is it 1 point to the total? Like, we don't have the information to quantify. So we really should be hesitant to use this information as actionable betting angles.
Can I chime in real quick?
Absolutely, because I was done.
Okay. So here's what I've noticed numbers wise since the start of the NBA Cup this season. The first set of games we had, the totals from the books were all quite high and they plummeted.
Line movement we've never seen.
12, yeah, like literally line movement I've never seen in the gambling space in my entire life. 12 points.
The smartest people in this space are betting into those unders and making them move. Okay, can keep going.
Okay. Point 2. Tonight, 5 of the 8 lines are moving towards the under in the pregame betting market. So that's indicating that sharp people are moving these lines under.
Yep.
Third, the totals of all of these games currently are 5 to 10 points higher than they ended at night 1. So I think your John is reading what the books are like. The books don't know what's going on either yet, right? They're in the same position we are. We don't know how these cup games work yet. There's only been 5 for each team last year, so whatever that 180 of them last year and 80 of them this year so far. So that's not enough of a sample size, like you were saying, to get going. And the books themselves are overreacting, right? So if they're overreacting, that means that you have to play the opposite direction of their overreaction.
So if there's 30 teams and they all play 4 group stage games, but you also have to divide that by 2 because there's 2 teams in each game, right?
Oh, I did the numbers wrong. Yeah, we're at 200 then, or 210.
There's 60 in a season, so we're at 102. We're at basically a little over 100. Maybe I'm doing the numbers wrong. We'll look this up. Yeah, Dialante says I need all the Friday pods to be this long and interesting, but more importantly, John says, I see. What advice would you give on betting the totals, live betting at halftime? I've usually live bet during halftime or at the end of the third quarter. Drew, do you want to reiterate what you were saying about live betting at halftime?
Yeah, just if you've seen poor shooting efficiencies, but the total pregame was high and the number was moving over, that's a clear spot to go over. If it's the exact opposite of that, then the exact opposite play, go under.
In the same vein, close games are more likely to have fouling. Blowout games are more likely to avoid those fouling situations. So if your angle is trying to find the ones that are more likely to foul more, a game that's, between 4 and 7 of a lead is a good spot to attack. The 20-point game is the one where you forego it.
Yeah.
Right? The Cavs were down 20 at halftime the other night against the Celtics. I would assume there was not that many fouls late, but there was one to Jason Tatum where he missed a free throw. Fuck you, JT. There was one where Jaylen Brown missed a free throw late. Damn you, Jaylen Brown, because either one of those, just one make, would have cost a push instead of a loss. All right, let's talk Dallas Mavericks, Denver Nuggets. Line at 3 now. We got 2 more games to go through. This has been a longer pod. We will try and wrap this up quickly, and then I have actually one more fun thing to show Drew. This was a 4.5 spread for Denver. We know Luka is out. He's going to miss at least a week with a wrist injury. So Luka out, and then Denver Nuggets, Jokic is questionable. We don't know if he's going to play. We know he missed practice again yesterday, still personal reasons. I think he just had a child. This is one of the longer breaks.
Didn't he play on the last game, though? I thought he did.
No, late
Am
scratch.
I wrong?
Late scratch.
Wow.
So he's remained out. Could it be because Jokic loves his off time and looks at this like a job and not like he's got to be the most competitive person in the world? So is he just taking as much paternity leave as possibly allowed by his contract? It seems like it. if Jokic plays, I really want the Nuggets in this spot, and I'm even willing to do it at 4.5. That's really what I'll say. The Nuggets won by 2 points, by 1 possession against the Mavericks with Luka. I think the detriment of Luka versus the loss of Jokic, or the reintegration of Jokic, is massive boost for Nuggets because of how important Luka is. So if the line was 4.5, and Nuggets previously won by 2 in a game, I think that line closed at 2, might have been a push. And so for those reasons, I would think it's probably worth more than 2.5 points, and I'd be looking to back Nuggets minus 4.5. This is listed as him questionable, so we're not going to get the full 4 or 5 point Jokic bump if he's deemed active, because we're like, oh, he might be active. Taylor says, I'm in Colorado, and Denver beat writers making it sound like Jokic will be a go. Taylor,
Thank you, Taylor.
Comment what you've heard from which specific beat writer, please, because we might make that a live play right now based on how actionable said information is. We know I follow every beat writer in the NBA. We sent out a list of beat writers for everyone to follow. So hopefully people are following that list, because there's a few main beat writers for every team that should absolutely be followed. And so if one of those people starts to report, hey, seems like Jokic is going to be here at shoot around today. He's been back in the building the last few days. Like, that's actionable because he hasn't really been hurt. He's just been away for personal time. Drew, do you think, do you agree Denver -3 if we get some good Jokic news?
I've already grabbed it, to be honest with you. And I will look to get off it around shoot around if we find out Jokic is not available. But I would expect he plays in this one. We do see that, and as I speak, we see the money line on the Nuggets moving downwards, or taking less value. So you got to put more vig on it.
I completely agree. So let's look to bet Denver in this spot, and then let's go on to talking about the Kings and the Clippers. DeMar DeRozan and Sabonis are both going to be active. They've been removed from the injury report in this spot. This line has bounced around between Clippers +3 and Kings -1.5. Drew, 1.5 point difference on a spread. Your boy has a middle. I have Kings -1.5 and Clippers +3. That was one of the less valuable middles, so I just put 1 unit in each direction. And I think I tilted it a little bit, half a unit towards the home Clippers in this spot. Any opinions in either direction for this game? You taking the NorCal rivals coming down to SoCal, or you taking the home team at the Intuit Dome, or are you just avoiding this game altogether?
This is a complete avoid. I cannot get a beat on this Clippers team. I also think that this total is pretty sharp considering how slow the Clippers play, and that the Kings have slowed down. I would almost consider an under here. Let me see what it opened at.
I could pull that up.
It is moving under.
Yeah,
222.5,
I think
223.
yesterday.
So let's have a look. I would expect this drops even further, especially without Malik Monk. I think that's probably worth 3 or 4 points to a total for sure.
221 best available at Bet365 towards the under.
Nice.
That would probably be pretty actionable.
Is,
although Circa does have 221.5, although Circa bounces the lines around left and right. DK has 221, but it's juiced towards the under, so you can get the -110 at Bet365. Yeah, under or nothing. I agree. Small play.
Yeah. Very small. I'm going to go, 0.5 again.
Okay.
Taking that right now.
So that'll pretty much do it. Drew, I have one other thing that I absolutely have to show you. Give me 1 second. Can I ask you a personal question, Drew? It's not really a personal question, a personal opinion question.
Sure.
If Asia Wilson and Josh Hart played one-on-one, who wins And what's the score?
Are we doing game to 11 by ones?
We are. Appreciate you asking the rules. That's exactly what we're doing.
Who starts with the ball?
Asia.
11-2 for Hart. I think Asia gets a
2.
Yeah, I think Asia can get a turnaround jumper and get him down, but I think she probably misses a shot or he gets a block or a steal on her pretty quick. I think it'll be tough for her to dribble on him.
That's true, and rebound on Josh Hart, because I think Josh Hart's technically taller and one of the best rebounding guards.
Yeah, like this is like if she starts with the ball, she can get a point or two for sure. She could shoot over him, but like he's winning and it's not close.
Do you think this is a dumb question?
Kind of, yeah.
All right, well let's watch Asia Wilson and Josh Hart breaking down what would happen in their one-on-one game on the Roommates podcast.
Score would be like 8-11. Me.
It's not that fun.
I get ball first.
You get ball first.
She does get ball
You're
first.
not gonna
She
get it
ball
back.
first.
And you
So-
do it,
so-
but that's gonna be your time. Like that's gonna be your period, which is fine. I'm not saying I'm gonna go scoreless.
No, she's
That's pretty solid.
I understand like her being an athlete.
Gosh, don't piss me off.
What do you think it's going to be, Josh? Do not piss me off. Yeah, I knew me and you would enjoy this. Let's play it through.
If he says
Not
anything
piss
less
me
than
off.
or more than 11-4, she's gonna be pissed. But I bet
was
you
just
she's
about
pissed
to
about that.
violate this. I'm about to say,
Right.
man, probably like 11-2.
Let's go. This
You're
guy
sick.
right here.
You're sick.
That's what it is.
I'll say like a good 11, probably like 11-7.
No, he's being modest.
Okay, that's fair. You got 7? Okay.
No.
No.
You
What you mean? What you mean? I got 7 what? I got 7 plus 4.
I'd pay to see
It would
that.
actually be.
I
it
would
be
pay to
like-
see that too.
I would
Do
pay
it.
to
Just-
see that as well. I know how big of fans me and you are of
Man.
the WNBA. I hope some people listening were here for our WNBA shows, but that would be fun. I just thought it was funny to show you.
Man, can we start like a boxing league of basketball one-on-one? Like you
There
have
is
like
gonna be,
promoter
pickup
like think about that
basketball
for a
at
second.
the All-Star game, but I think that's the dumbest thing ever this year.
But like think about it if you set it up like boxing matches, right? Like we're gonna play one-on-one, 3 games to 11 by ones. Let's go. Like
It
could
would
you
be
imagine? I would
so
watch that.
fucking
I would watch
sweet.
that on pay-per-view. Like you could hype up like what if after the Olympics and everybody's down on Tatum, right? And Tatum's just like, fine. You know what? I'm setting up a match and I'm
King
taking
of the
on
court.
Yeah, and I'm taking on LeBron James. King of the court.
What's the spread on that one-on-one game to 11? LeBron versus Tatum. Shoot for ball first. So you think Tatum has slight edge and chance to get ball first as well?
Do you really though? Like they're shooting a 3 for ball first, right? And
LeBron
it's-
shooting 41.6% from 3. That man is a fucking baller at age
True.
39 or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
he's doing.
LeBron, right? What's Tatum from 3 this season though?
I don't know, but Tatum's a better shooter than LeBron is. The shots that Tatum takes are harder than LeBron's, but coming off of the Olympics when Tatum was 0 for 16 during the Olympic run, I don't know. Maybe LeBron gets ball first. Who would you take in that one-on-one?
Tatum.
Give me Bron.
Really?
Yeah, because Tatum's going to do one of those stupid fucking step backs to try and get over LeBron like he does in an NBA game. And then LeBron's going to be like, nah, this is one-on-one. I'm going to bully brute back you down.
Do we really think Tatum would do that in a one-on-one game against a guy who's 38 years old that he knows he can just get around
That's
at will?
true. He's probably just beating him off the dribble.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
it's
it's
probably LeBron's probably playing so far back, right, that Tatum's going to have to shoot or try and beat him off the dribble. They're probably both doing that to each other, and then it just becomes a 3-point shoot off, and it's probably not that actually interesting to watch. Whatever chimes in, the great Max Kellerman line. Who do you want when the fate of the earth is on the line shooting your three? Steph Curry or Andre Iguodala? I want Iguodala, one of the best bars in history of sports media. That's why we don't really watch those shows anymore. Okay. That'll do it for today's pod. I know John is writing in the chat. He usually bets, and he's asking more about live betting situations. Live betting becomes very different strategically than pregame. So what we're discussing about here is pregame. And so if you agree or disagree or whatever, you really shouldn't use any of this stuff in terms of pregame information for live capping. Like we talk about live capping pretty rarely on the show because in the content space, one, I'm not really much of a live better, and two, in the content space, to point out what you're looking for or to give out bets becomes impossible because you don't know the way these games are going to play out. So if you are betting into those spots, John Live, we appreciate you being here, and we wish you the best of luck in all of those bets moving forward. Let's quickly review what the bets were on the slate. I'll pull up the full WHOP card. It is big. It looks messy, but it's actually juicy as fuck. Milwaukee Bucks -4, 3-unit bet played back with Indiana Pacers +5.5, a 1-unit tilt towards the Bucks on a 5-unit possible middle. The Hawks +1.5 and the Bulls +2.5 in the same game. That is a full 3-point middle with 4 units on each side. It's essentially risking since they were both -110, 0.4 units is my max loss. My max win is 8 units. Those are actually the only two options, considering all of these are on the 0.5s and there is no push line available. We also have Kings -1.5 and Clippers +3. That game kind of sits 2.5 or 3 right now. 1 unit in each direction there. Slight tilt towards the Clippers. Brooklyn, Philadelphia under 218.5. I originally put 2 units on it. I de-risked a little bit with some over 217. I plan on adding another half unit towards the over eventually. It's now at 215, so this becomes an awesome positive value middle to be 1 unit tilted towards the under. The reason why I played that for 2 units was because I forecasted having this playback action. Warriors -8. While that line sits at 10.5, I don't even think I'm going to play that back. And the Boston at Wizards under 236.5. Probably worth just outright skipping because that line's kind of middling right there. Maybe a little bit of minus CLV. Drew, anything to add before we go?
Yeah. Just to the audience, anyone who's listening, I am quietly starting to bet the NHL and get back into hockey a bit, as back to my Canadian roots. So if anyone out there who's listening is watching the NHL, capping the NHL, hit me up on Twitter at Ranting Johnson, get me a DM, throw me a comment, whatever you want, and just give me your picks. See if we're on the same page. We'd love to hear from you all on that front.
His Twitter is at Ranting Johnson. He is not casually stepping back into the NHL. He is 19-6 in his last 25 bets. So this man is so hot, he's melting the ice in the NHL. So reach out to him if you are a hockey bettor. I am not. I cannot speak to that world. We will be back Monday to break down the NBA slate for that. I don't know what we got next week, but hopefully a banger card tonight, a banger weekend. If you're watching the show, we have 400 people in the live stream right now. This is awesome. We appreciate the growth so much. We appreciate some of the awesome feedback. We appreciate the daily people who are tuning in and jumping in the comments section. We appreciate all the questions that we are getting. So if you could go ahead and just drop a like, drop a comment, drop a review anywhere that you listen to the show, that would be hugely helpful as we continue to grow what we are doing here. Some words from Patrick Beverly. As we say, peace out, and Pat Bev goes, y'all subscribe to my podcast while you're asking all these questions.
Y'all subscribe to my podcast while y'all asking all these questions. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. And if you're a kid, listen to your parents. Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents.
Subscribe to the pod.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the pod, man.
No.
Good, those are good.